From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt.
My name is Noel.
They call me Ben. We are joined, as always, with our super producer, Dylan, the Tennessee pal Fagan. Most importantly, you are you. You are here. That makes this the stuff they don't want you to know. Folks, if you are hearing this the evening this program publishes, we cannot wait to welcome you to Thursday, December 26th, 2024. It's the day after Christmas Day for any celebrants in the crowd. And for anybody who is a little bit of a Grinch, we hope you had a moment where your heart grew 3 times larger. This is one of our favorite things we do, especially here toward the end of the human calendar year. We share messages from the most important part of the show, you, our fellow conspiracy realists. We're going to hear from some shepherds in Europe. We are going to hear some responses to the DHL incidents earlier, and we're also gonna hear some responses to this big chicken episode that we're working on. Before we do any of that, guys, is this the last listener mail program that we're going to record, or the last one that publishes in 2024? Do we have another one?
I think so. I think this is the one. This is it.
All right. Right on. Well, do we have any message that we'd like to give just overall to our fellow supporters of the show and conspiracy realists?
Any New Year's resolutions? I don't really do that anymore. No, you guys are great. Ben says you guys are the best part of the show. Always, so quick with an amazing insider perspective on something that we've talked about, as we will hear today. And just in general, just very good-natured and kind people. So thank you for your continued support and contribution to the show.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah. I would just say, if you look around, stuff out here seems pretty messed up. Stuff out here seems troubling a lot of the time. But I think you might find that a lot of it is stuff that isn't going to affect you necessarily that much. And I know for me personally, it causes a lot of internal anxiety thinking about the world and all of its operations and machinations and stuff that seems aimed against me and people like me and you and everyone around us. I would just say in this time, do your best to focus on the awesome stuff that's happening right around you, because it's super cool. And often it seems kind of small and not big and scary like all that other stuff. But the little things, the little awesome things are worth your time and attention.
Well said. And I hope that's a message we can all agree with. To further dovetail on that, folks, it's the end of the year, often a time of introspection and retrospection. Please, please do remember the calendar is practiced now. The Gregorian calendar is a human creation. You don't need a specific time of the year to be helpful and affectionate to yourself. You also don't need it, perhaps more importantly, you don't need a specific day to be helpful and considerate of other people. Because we can tell you, the old masters, the old quotes were right. Everybody is fighting a battle of their own. So let us be kind. And with that, we're going to pause for a word from our sponsors. We cannot wait to share with you a letter that caught all of our interest. Noel especially gave us some opinions, right, on big chickens.
Yeah. Let's hear a word from our sponsor and we'll get right to it. All right, let's jump right into our first listener mail of the day from Chickenado. It's a great name. I believe we've heard from Chickenado before pertaining to the big chicken conspiracy. Ben mentioned there is definitely an episode, a foot, that you should be a claw. No, it's a foot. They call them chicken feet, don't they? Did you guys ever eat a chicken foot?
Yeah.
I'm sure you have been.
Yeah, pretty often.
Yeah,
Not
okay.
once. Not
Nope,
once.
don't care
You
to.
gotta
Good.
watch
More
out
for
for the
you.
bones, but it's
Right.
good. It depends on how it's prepared. There's a great there are a couple great dim sum places here if you guys want to hang out. They do chicken feet right. 10.
Yep. I believe it. I just, as I've made very clear on the show, I do have somewhat of a bird phobia, and part of that pertains to their creepy claws and weird little webbed feet. So more chicken feet for everyone else. But Chickenado is the aforementioned kind of inside industry perspective in the world of chicken farming. And I'm just going to jump right in. Had some things to add and some things to correct and some kind of other thoughts pertaining to our discussion of chicken farming. Hi, it's me, Chickenado again. I am just finally listening into your listener mail from December 2nd. First off, you mentioned maybe doing an episode on big chicken. Yes. Affirmative, supported by Chickenado. And feel free to reach out for info or any help fact-checking. Absolutely. Now, for some correction/information on why the commercial chicken industry is the way that it is. They use a broiler, which refers to a fast-growing meat chicken, colloquially known as a Cornish cross. The Cornish cross originates from crossbreeding a Cornish game and a Rhode Island white. Accent on the white. If you look at Cornish game birds, you'll notice they are very chunky, fat birds and are called double-breasted, like a suit. Meanwhile, Rhode Island whites grow very quickly. The hybrid combine the double-breasted gene with the quick growth rate for a big, fast-growing bird. Now, the historic Cornish crosses, the ones that we have nowadays, are double to triple the size of their original hybrids.
That seems too big.
It does seem a little big. Now that that's out of the way, Chickenado goes on. For some quick stats on the broiler industry, Cornish cross have to be harvested anywhere from 7 to 9 weeks old, or they will start dying from heart attack, organ failure, fatty liver disease, or heat stroke. Doesn't sound good. Large, fast growth has a cost. Even when given the option to move around a lot, they prefer to camp by the feed and water, sit and eat. This can actually reduce the quality of the meat because they get scalded on the bottoms from laying in the ammonia from the poop.
Oh,
yeah. So to mitigate this, they encourage them to move from one feeder to the other at the very least. The reason that they use artificial lighting is that chickens do not eat while they are sleeping. If they are not eating, they are not growing. So they use controlled day-night cycles for the best food to meet conversions.
Oh, that is the worst phrase.
What? What?
Conversions.
Food to meat conversions? Yeah. It's definitely a stat for sure. Many operations have moved away from antibiotics due to further restrictions in antibiotic use in livestock because of antibiotic-resistant bacteria concerns. Very legitimate concerns.
A little bit of a feedback loop on that one, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, how so?
Well, the argument goes that in industrialized livestock or poultry operations, fixing a short-term problem, depending upon how you do it, may create larger long-term problems that will again have to be treated. So it's a feedback loop of trying to fix a thing immediately.
I can see that. For sure. And, we do know that antibiotic-resistant bacteria are absolutely a concern, and zoonotic, jumping of various diseases and such can also be a problem or a product, a byproduct of this kind of, specialization, let's call it, right?
Think about the genius, guys, of using oregano to improve immune function. Your broiler chickens come pre-seasoned now internally.
That's true. Sometimes you get the lemon pepper variety. I don't know if that helps as well. Moving on though with Chickenado's letter, left off on the antibiotic-resistant bacteria concerns. Instead, some of them use herbal remedies, to your point, Matt, such as oregano, to improve immune function, which has been researched and tested through various feed trials. That's why when you go to the grocery store, most of your chicken meat will say antibiotic and growth hormone free. As for encouraging farmers to use a slower growing broiler, this is the KFC part, I believe, in question. They had the Franken chickens, I believe, was the term that was thrown around, and They're pledged to cease to use these monsters, right? And again, no shade on the chickens. I'm just monster in terms of they're really, really big. As for encouraging farmers to use a slower growing broiler, it's not feasible. The chicken farmers often are already massively in debt because they are required by whichever of the big three meat processing companies they are contracted to use very special proprietary feeders, waters, and even the feed that is used for the birds and also the birds themselves. The farmers honestly don't really own anything. The bank does. The barns, the equipment, it's all out on huge loans, but they're hoping to get a little bit more than break even on this year's crop of birds. They don't get to set the prices. It's pretty bleak when you actually look at it. And this, I think a lot of this stuff applies to other types of farming as well, in terms of like the bank basically owning the whole operation. You're beholden to the bank. If you're working with folks like Monsanto, you're beholden to these proprietary seeds and all of that stuff. And then there's intellectual property concerns and potential lawsuits and all of that kind of thing. So I think this is a really interesting email that points to larger issues in food production in this country and abroad, I'm sure. Family operations sometimes still choose to use a Cornish cross and a chicken tractor, which is a chicken coop that can be moved daily or weekly to put them on fresh graze. All of the problems, except for the scalding, are still there for the breed health-wise. These are not a breed of bird that was ever intended to live a full, normal chicken life. That's a really key point there. They basically hatch with an expiration date. Other broiler breeds you can harvest around 12 weeks or so for optimal feed to meat ratios, but they're not as big of a table bird as a Cornish cross, which is why the Cornish cross is still appealing to a lot of people. And just to really quickly pick that apart, like meat off of a Cornish cross. It's about wow factor. It's about, look at that big fat bird. It might as well be a turkey. It's so huge. Look at those breastises on that bird. You know, I mean, it's like when you go to Costco, double-breasted, a million percent.
Sure. Well, it's the concept of I can feed my whole family with one bird now.
Thank you. I may be getting caught up in the wow factor of it all, but you're right. It is absolutely a subsistence functional thing where it's like, why would I get... You know, I mean, if you go to like a fancy French restaurant, for example, and where, I don't know if you've seen, they do these table services where they cut like a Cornish game hen. These are tiny birds. The meat is probably delectable and it's probably a delicious, treat. And it was probably raised and given a name and taken on walks and all of this stuff like you might see in a Portlandia sketch. But it's small, and that is not something that you cannot put that kind of effort and energy into raising a single bird if it's not yielding that level of meat. To both of y'all's points, this is a chicken that when you go to Costco to buy, you buy this massive bird and it only costs you like $5-6. It's crazy. I'm still kind of blown away by a lot of this stuff. And to wrap up, none of this is actually to defend the industry or to create an animal who hatches out with an expiration date. It's just to explain some of the inner workings of why things are functioning in the broiler chicken industry as they do. Personally, I don't like them. I don't like that we have an animal that has no possibility of a normal life. However, I do have some Cornish games. They are chunky, fat, adorable, and very friendly, actually. They grow slower, and they would eat more feed per pound of meat, but at least it's a more humane life for them, whether they end up on the table or live their lives just producing eggs and looking cute. I've included some photos of my two very cute bantam Cornish game hens, as well as a chart of the Cornish cross throughout the years. And of course, again, that super chicken, 4,202 grams. This is like where we are at the modern Cornish cross. And then we have some we ask you to send us pet pictures, and chickens, I think, absolutely apply. These are adorable. I wish we'd gotten names, but there's a little cute brown one sitting on some eggs, a little white fluffy one, and one with some real cute brown feathers and a cute little beak. I'm really kind of warming up to chickens, guys. Sorry about my screed earlier about their creepy feet. But man, I thank you. I really just, Chickenado, I think this is really, really informative and super helpful to get this kind of inside perspective on how this industry functions and how difficult it is to change it.
Guys, should we go back to the chicken dad we visited that one time? And You can sit amongst them.
No, let's not go crazy now. Let's not go crazy. I'll hang on the periphery again.
Okay.
Chickenado, thank you so much. Or Chickenado. However, it'll be pronounced in the end. Thank you again for the awesome pet pictures. When asking for photographs of your pets or your non-human animal friends, we always mean it sincerely, and we want to invite you to share more pictures of your chickens, and you specifically, you conspiracy realist, to share photos of your favorite non-human animal friends.
Absolutely. Let's take a quick break, hear a word from our sponsor, and then come back with more messages from you.
And we've returned. Guys, we got some updates and comments to two stories that we covered recently. Ben, I think these were both your stories. So get ready. We got more information, insider information from people who know their stuff. The first one comes to us from Dirty D, who listened to us talking about DB Cooper and potential identification there, specifically about the parachute modifications that we were talking about that were discovered that aided in this potential identification of who DB Cooper is. Really good stuff. Let's jump to Dirty D.
Hey, you guys. This is Dirty D. The modifications to the parachute for the DB Cooper, the device is called the APRR, an automatic parachute ripcord release. And it gets installed inside of the backpack area. And this device, it has an aneroid in it, and it's set to actuate at a particular altitude. So if he were to have jumped and became unconscious for whatever reason, the parachute was still open because this aneroid works in conjunction with a squib or a CAD, a cartridge actuating device, which is like a small explosive, and it blows the ripcord release, and it basically sends the skirt hem of the parachute, like it just blasts it forced open. Yeah, so if you have any questions about, the operation or anything about it, give me a call. Again, love what you guys do. Thank you. Bye.
Whoa. Okay. This is, first of all, awesome tech. Thank you, Dirty D, for letting us know about that. This is a thing that we have all seen in popular media. Specifically, you guys, I just saw this yesterday when I finished watching a new movie on Netflix called Carry On.
Oh, I'm excited to watch that.
Oh,
Is
I
it pretty
just
good?
watched that last night. Yeah.
Yeah. CARRY-ON. It features Taron Egerton and Jason Bateman and Sophia Carson. And
on purpose, Jason Bateman plays not the kind of role you might expect historically.
But at the same time, he's so Jason Bateman. It is a glorious thing that man can do and just be himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he can either be the most cutting, dry, straight man in a show, like somebody who just reacts to other people's insanity, as in Arrested Development, or in this, I swear it just feels like Jason Bateman, but he seems like the most menacing bad guy I've ever seen.
He was kind of a bastard in Ozark, but he also played it with this kind of like, oh, shucks, I wouldn't really do anything wrong kind of attitude, I'm
so
really
what
excited
about
to see it.
Carry On reminded you of this?
Oh, yeah, it's just so good. And awesome work, Jason. So it reminded me of this, but I'm not going to do spoilers, but it features a moment. Oh, gosh, it kind of gives spoilers for it. It features a moment in there where one of these things is specifically shown to you. And like as a, look at this. This is an automatic parachute deployment system on this thing. Which
I don't think you should beat yourself up, man. The title Carry On is kind of a spoiler.
Yeah. And it does feature the TS Mother A, and that is
shout out to Get Out.
There you go. But okay, but it all goes back to this concept of what if I need my parachute to deploy automatically? And it makes me wonder, why aren't all parachutes like that? Why this should be a necessity rather than an add-on in my mind.
So when you get the RFP, as Uncle Sam, the funny proposal, you want to save the taxpayer money. And if that means that a few shoots might not quite shoot when they should, then, greater good. I'm being a monster, but that is historically true.
Yeah. But then it became, well, we need a secondary parachute for every paratrooper now. So we got to make sure there's there's two.
I can't wait for subscription shoots, bro. I'm so bullish on this one. Just pay your...
Why not?
It's evil. Oh,
Why
God.
don't all of us have parachutes at all times? Just in case. Take a little topple. You're a little too high up, parachute.
The wind's looking nice and you want to save money on the Uber, just climb to a high enough elevation, pop it and let the wind decide.
Boom. Paraglide vacation in a snap. Seems exciting to me. But just to go back to Dirty D, thank you so much for sending us that little bit of information. I love just knowing that it's an aneroid that has a little tiny explosion that causes the parachute to just deploy.
Which is, thank you, Dirty D. And as you're aware, Dirty D, there are also other possible modifications or little zip zappies you could do with a typical shoot. This is important information. And like you, Matt, I love specific nomenclature. We've got a lot of aviation enthusiasts and experts in the audience tonight, longtime listeners who doubtlessly have been thinking about some of the same thoughts you brought to us, Dirty D. So thank you.
Oh, yeah. See if you can use this in conversation this week. Automatic parachute ripcord release. It's just fun to say, and if you can slip it into a convo, you'll be the coolest person around the table. Also known as APRR. Thanks so much, Dirty D. Now we're jumping to another story that we talked about recently. This one is about the DHL crash that occurred. Remember that plane went right into the ground as it was landing. Everything looked fine and then just nosedived right at the last second. Very confusing. We speculated a lot about why that would have happened, how that could have happened, what are the bigger implications of that happening. And we're going to jump to somebody who knows their stuff, Phantom Flyer. So here is Phantom Flyer's message.
Hey guys, it's Phantom Flyer. I was just listening to your episode about the DHL crash. I happen to be in the aviation industry. So what we're kind of looking at is something called CFIT, Controlled Flight into Terrain. From all the stuff I've been watching and for everyone kind of in the aviation industry, I know a lot of us have been looking at it. It looks kind of like they were what's called under the glide slope. And it may have been due to a loss of, different things, but just wanted to give you that kind of thing. And Control Flight into Terrain, you guys can look it up. It's quite interesting. When I worked at the FAA, I actually had a document that we worked on. So stuff like this, unfortunately, isn't too common or isn't too uncommon. Just thought I'd give you the heads up. Got to use this on the radio. So love your show. Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Boom. Okay, so some new vocabulary that we have to go over there. The main one for me that we've talked about, gosh, I can't remember the exact story, but it was when there was a deep underground base that was discovered because a flight ran into the mountain right near where it was located. And that's how the public found out about this big underground facility that the government had, because there was a controlled flight into terrain where it's like everything seems to be fine, everything seems to be nominal, and then all of a sudden the plane crashes, and then it's up to everybody else to figure out what the hell happened. And it, in that case, it turned out that the pilots believed they were at the correct altitude, at the correct positioning, but in fact they were only supposed to reach that or get down to that altitude after a certain X number of miles from where they actually were. And that's a lot of that has to do with flying by instrumentation rather than being able to see where you're going, which is a very common occurrence and still gives me pause every time I get into a plane, you guys. Just knowing that that's normal. We're just looking at some outputs, and that's how we know where we are and where we're going. Just got to trust technology, I suppose. And often it works. 99.9% of the time, all of it works. But sometimes you get something like this where there's an error for one reason or another, and you have a crash. And the other term, guys, that I didn't know is under the glide slope. Have you guys heard of this or encountered that before?
Thankfully, I've never flown a plane with that where that nomenclature would occur. But I would say passingly familiar. Matt, can you wait for it? Elevate our knowledge on flying under the glide slope?
Well, guys, I don't know anything about it. And I went over to a forum on infiniteflight.com and was just trying to figure out what the heck it meant. I'm going to read something. I feel like this is a forum. I'm sorry. This is just where I'm at right now looking at this. This is from akims_aviation. The glide slope or glide path is, in the most basic explanation, the angle of descent to the runway. They provide a picture basically showing you the way the lines move forward from your perspective as the pilot as you're coming in. And this is another piece of information that I didn't know. It says, you know those red and white lights beside the runway? Well, those are called PAPI lights, or Precision Approach Lighting System lights.
I don't know. I like Poppy.
They're poppy lights, and they help to guide you in the runway, and it shows how it works. But I still don't fully understand being under or over the glide slope as you approach, if you're piloting a flight. There are quite a few other things to look up. Like if you look at glide path, and this is coming from Wikipedia, sorry guys, Wikipedia will tell you that glide path and glide slope are essentially the same thing. And this is a quotation that comes from ITU radio regulations. It says the glide slope or glide path is, quote, a system of vertical guidance embodied in the instrument landing system, which indicates the vertical deviation of the aircraft from its optimum path of descent. So that would mean the plane knows the optimum path of descent to get your plane exactly where it needs to go to land on that runway, just perfect like. But if you are under or over that angle, it's going to let you know.
You'll have an indicator that says, you're 2 blips too far up, 2 blips too far down, both of which are kind of bad. But I think 2 blips too far down is the worst one.
Oh, yeah. And Phantom Flyer, I wish you were here to just tell us, actually explain this to us.
I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hang out.
Personally, I'm doing everything I can to try and understand it and then explain it. But it is important to note, we've talked about this before. One of the major issues Boeing had with their new MAX planes was it was a piece of instrumentation on the nose, or the side of the nose of the plane, that let it know where it is from an altitude perspective, and then it could automatically adjust the back of the plane to right that altitude. And that was one of the major issues, where it would send the nose down to try and get to optimal altitude. And sometimes the instrument that's telling you what altitude it is was wrong or missing, because there was only one, and it would pop off sometimes. And that's what caused planes to nosedive the way we saw this DHL plane nosedive right at the end.
And Phantom, correct us here, clarify, email or call us. And I believe if we're understanding instrumentation correctly, the modern aircraft is sort of triangulating via localized radio signals, which goes to your earlier point there about flying under bad weather when one cannot visually assess, or what do we say in Always Sunny, when you can't give an ocular assessment out the cockpit? Yeah.
I don't have ocular on. Sorry. Well, we're going to figure this out with the instruments.
I thought you cleared them.
Yeah, exactly. But it is good to know here, the glide slope, glide path thing is a system that is set up on the runway itself that is communicating with the plane, as you're saying, Ben. So as you're coming in, you should have all the information you need there. And it is really cool looking. There are emission patterns that you can check out of how this actually functions, so that the glide slope is perfectly within these 2 signals that get sent out. And it's right there in the Venn diagram, the angle of approach.
Just so.
Super cool. Super, super cool. You guys, we have more information. We'll give a quick mention here to Phoenix, who also had some really interesting ideas and sent us a voicemail about why and how you might disrupt DHL operations like that, and why this crash probably isn't. Yeah. Why this crash probably isn't some of the crazier stuff, because there's other ways of achieving those goals, at least according to Phoenix. And I kind of didn't want to put them on air, to be honest, Phoenix, because they're scary ideas. You're very intelligent and thought about that. And
you're correct, Phoenix, just for the record.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I think that's why makes me a little nervous. But for now, thank you so much, Phoenix, Phantom Flyer, Dirty D, everybody else who's called in. And we will be right back with more messages from y'all.
And we have returned, thanks not just to all our fellow conspiracy realists who call in, but thanks as well equally to people or entities who take the time to write in. As we've often said, sometimes the void writes back, and I would love to share a great dialogue, a great discourse from a European shepherd who's a long-term fan of the show. We will refer to as the shepherd. Bonsoir. You say, bonjour, good fellows. I have evolved through the Stuff podcast team from Stuff You Should Know. Dylan, can we get a clap? Awesome. Through Movie Crush, Dylan, can we get a hurrah? Awesome. And on to you guys. At Stuff They Don't Want You to Know, and I must thank you all for entertaining and educating me through many a long day working in all weathers on our farm. In your recent episode, The Terrifying Future of Food, however, as you rounded up the episode, a comment made by Ben left me shouting into the wilderness, "No, Ben! Why?" Ben, you summarized the episode by saying that the, quote, world would be objectively in better shape if we were all vegetarian. No, Ben! Why? How could it be that the infinitely knowledgeable Sir Ben Bolin, too kind, and thank you, could have found himself a proponent of a potential conspiracy of big veg, or at the very least, something they don't want us to know? Feel free to use my email on the air. My name is The Shepherd. So first off, excellent writing. Got us all on board. A lot of us in the audience tonight may be wondering, well, what would be the problem if the human animal overall, all, 8 point whatever billion, went vegetarian? This is where the shepherd brings up fascinating correspondence. Now, to be clear, before we continue, I think it's fair to say that Tennessee Pal, Matt Both Hands Frederick, and Noel the Bagman Brown, and yours truly are omnivorous, right? None of us are full vegetarian yet.
No, I do enjoy vegetarian cooking, but it's never been like a lifestyle choice that I've made. I do have some friends that are vegan and love it, and I have friends that are like pescatarian. I think it's to each their own kind of situation.
Meat.
So you said it, Matt. You said it.
And Dylan, Tennessee Pal, just logged in with, again, his astonishing Jamiroquai music video background to throw us an ambiguous thumbs up. You are so good at this, dude. Thank you for being on the show. Also great Jamiroquai costume. That's an Easter egg for later. So the shepherd continues and says, I am a British sheep farmer working in France and have many neighboring farmers who grow vegetable or grain crops. They cut away traditional hedgerows and cut trees down in the middle of fields to make giant super fields. They spray herbicides before plowing and sowing their single crops, which are harvested before the chemical destruction cycle begins again. This is stuff we have talked about. I am a shepherd, says the the shepherd, and my fields have remained constant for 2 decades. No herbicides, no pesticides. We have wild flowers, thick hedges, and trees to provide shelter and cover for our sheep. We have grounding, nesting birds, a myriad of butterflies, bees, dragon and crane flies, plus other insects, mammals, birds, foxes, deer, birds of prey, etc. This is where it gets, I'd say, very interesting. Not doing the catchphrase on this one. None of these have had the opportunity to establish themselves in a field destroyed by pesticides and plowing on a yearly basis. I would suggest, says the shepherd, that a vegetarian diet will inevitably lead to the extinction of many species of animals, insects, and plants, or, at the very least, a negative impact on biodiversity. Let's pause there because I think that's a really important thought. You know what I mean? What do you guys think about biodiversity in a world of global vegetarians?
It's interesting. I mean, doesn't biodiversity also apply to plant life?
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So, what are we talking about here exactly? Like, I mean, these concepts not being able to coexist.
What I think is being stated here is that if we became vegetarian, we would need a lot more land to be cultivated in the ways that are helpful for plants to grow, right? Like large operations, because now everybody is eating only plants.
And especially they'll be monocultural, which is the difficulty.
Exactly. So then over time, you're getting rid of even more places where wild animals tend to,
Habitate.
proliferate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if you continue down the path, I can see this image, but what you're forgetting are vertical farms. I'm bringing it back up, guys. Vertical farms.
And I have a response to this we'll get to as well. Yes, vertical farms, whether porcine or produce. Oh, no. So let's go. The shepherd, you took the time to write to us. We want to give the full English on this one. All right. So you say, and thus my gauntlets are off, and I challenge thee to a duel, good Sir Ben, as a humble farmer. I know you guys love that phrase. As a humble farmer without access to the statistics. I ask you this question. Sir Ben, is the reduction in animal farts by becoming vegetarian better for the planet than the destruction, if not extinction, of many species that thrive in long-term grazing land? I hope you will read this on the air in the hope that this other side of livestock farming gets further consideration, as it is so often ignored in the public debate about vegetarianism. All the best stuff, guys. The Shepherd. As my colleagues know here, folks, did write back to the Shepherd, and to your point, Matt, which is excellent foreshadowing here, it gets us to a conversation about path dependence. Now, Shepherd, I wrote to you in depth because we're great fans of your perspective here, and most importantly, you brought a tremendously impactful point to all of us listening tonight. Path dependence, without getting too into the grass, is this sort of institutional theory arguing that group decisions, large-scale decisions, are often constrained by past decisions of previous institutions. The most famous examples of this are usually orbiting around the concept of technology, like the QWERTY keyboard. We all have a QWERTY keyboard right now, right? Anybody using Dvorak?
Nah, not me.
got a hard no from Matt and Noel, and Dylan is probably typing a message to us now on.
He's got one of those crazy split keyboards
on his split keyboard.
I noticed when I signed into the Discovery Plus recently why I have such a hard time using their search on their platform, because it is just A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, and just goes in line. It doesn't make sense to me. I go, where is the freaking Q?
Track of the letters. Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah. Here's an example. We're going somewhere with this. The Shepherd, you already know because you're part of our discourse. Oh gosh, hang on. Dylan just sent us a message in the chat. Don't get mad at us, Dylan. What did you send? All right, let's give some space to Tennessee Pal. Oh, he sent us a picture of his keyboard, which is a Maltron.
What?
I bet it's really clicky.
Whoa.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Oh, that explains so much about our editing process. Tight.
It's so ergonomic.
For one hand. Here's the deal. Here's path dependence, a famous example of this, fellow conspiracy realists, keeping it brief. The QWERTY keyboard is not the optimal layout for humans typing with their collection of 10 carpals or whatever, fingers. And the reason it exists is because back in earlier evenings, in the advent of the typewriter, these little physical blocks of letters, right? Each block is a letter. They used to fly at the page. And if you were typing too fast, if your fingers were too good at writing, then these things would jam. So people purposely figured out how to make a kind of crap layout for the order of the alphabet and numerical symbols, just because that would make typewriters jam less frequently. Now, you don't usually use a typewriter unless you're Tom Hanks and you collect typewriters. That's a true story.
Also, quick shout out to the recent Ridiculous History episode on the history of the alphabet.
Ah, yes. Two-parter. Ooh, we got in the weeds on that one. Please do check it out. That's a nice whisper in, we'll call it.
We hear you, Ben. We see you.
I hear you. I see you, Noel. So by the time the technology evolved, the QWERTY keyboard layout was already so normalized that it would cost society more blood, sweat, and energy and treasure to change it than it would to build around it. And this gets us back to your excellent argument, the Shepherd. Your work will only become more important as biodiversity continues to dwindle, and it's due in no small part to large-scale agricultural practices that you mentioned in your initial correspondence. The human is not an obligate carnivore, meaning the human can definitely just eat vegetables all the livelong day, and it'll be fine. It'll reproduce. It'll make more people. They'll have, watch parties for Lost or whatever.
It is funny though. Like, I love vegetables, Ben, but my mind sometimes it gravitates towards a steak. I find it to be yummier, but I also know that good vegetarian cooking is also yummy. And I think I just need to figure out how to break myself of that. But I think a lot of people probably struggle with that too, where, there's something about meat that just like it does it for you, even though we don't need it. It's totally a luxury.
Well, check out The Omnivore's Dilemma by Michael Pollan, which we keep, to your point, Sarah, whispering in. So here's the deal. I'm conceding your point, the Shepherd. You have excellent work here, and you're very well reasoned. I will advance one caveat. Global vegetarianism sounds jolly. It won't work, caveat, for now. And it's because of that same path dependence. The way that the agricultural industry currently practices means it is unsustainable and untenable to grow enough vegetable matter for the entirety of the world's human population to only consume vegetables. And, just like our pals, Tennessee Pal and Noel the Bagman and Maddie Bothans here, like all of us, I too am extremely omnivorous, with very few exceptions. There's almost nothing I won't eat. I think we talked about it off air. You guys had to give up the octopus.
Because they're smart. It's that. Yeah, it's like there are very few hills I will die on, but I do think about that every time I see it on a menu, and I usually avoid it because they are so incredibly sentient and feeling. But per our conversation, or maybe a one-sided conversation with PETA in that email about ascribing, certain types of emotions and abilities to feel and experience to some species, but not others. I think there are probably plenty of species other than octopi that know they're being, severely hurt and living
100%.
poor lives.
And honestly, it might be different, selfishly, if there were an octopus population that lived for a very long time. Like if there was a 50-year-old octopus and I knew it was the equivalent of a maritime war criminal, if there was a 50-year-old super evil Henry Kissinger, Salih Tsar, Pol Pot type octopus, I would happily eat it. But unfortunately, they're too smart. They burn so bright and they die so quickly. Here is the thing I had to eat with this one, you guys. I had to eat a little crow because the shepherd 100% nails some great thoughts, and we hope you'll consider it as well. A massive rollout of industrial level produce farming with current technology, stuff that doesn't encounter, like you're saying, Matt, vertical farming, soil reclamation, exciting innovations in hydroponics. If you use the technology as it stands today, it will almost certainly spell disaster for the human population. We know there's a lot of stuff to the story here, but that's the basis.
I think the question that came up for a couple of us, maybe all three, when that pig, skyscraper or whatever story came through, was why do it with pigs, which creates such a nasty, toxic, literally environment that's horrible for the animals and horrible for the workers. Why not do it with soybeans or do it with, and the answer was pigs are more popular. But it does feel like there will come a time where we can no longer lean on what's popular, and it has to be more like what is, how is this going to aid subsistence, big picture.
Yes, there will come an evening.
But that's a reckoning though, right? And it's like, that's not how the world works, is it? Unfortunately, we just kick the can down the road and say, if we can make more money selling people the thing they want, then why would we sell them the thing they need?
Well put. Yeah. Kicking the can is a Band-Aid solution. It works until it doesn't. With this, we want to hear your opinions, fellow conspiracy realists, regarding the idea of sustainability. What is your specific diet? Do you, like us, wrestle with the omnivore's dilemma? Are you full vegan? Are you full vegetarian? Are you considering yourself an obligate carnivore? And if so, how does it work? Before we end this listener mail program, we wanted to share with you some letters from home in the form of a couple holiday jokes from our pal who may become a new nemesis. He's certainly a nemesis to comedy, Humorous Harry. Do you guys want to hear? Want
is a strong word, but okay. I'm here for it. Yeah.
All right. We'll just do. I went a little long with our exploration with the shepherd. Let's just do one from Humorous Harry. It's a letter from him to all of us. Because of global climate change, Santa was surprised when his wife said, "It looks like rain." Dear.
Tut, tut. Tut, tut.
All right, we'll do one more. And this is for you, Humorous Harry. What does Frosty the Snowman put in his cereal bowl? So easy.
I like some of these that are kind of more like riddles. I don't got it. I'm working on it. Let's see.
You got it. What does Frosty the Snowman put in his cereal bowl?
Oh, Frosted Flakes.
Ah, so close. Judges? That's a yes.
Okay.
It is snowflakes, which I would say count as frosted.
But right? He's Frosty the Snowman. I mean, it's
Frosty Flakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like you got it. I feel like the judges assented there. And with that,
Whoa. One more. Hold on.
Yeah, you know what? I do kind of crave it now. I do kind of crave it.
Okay. Roll of threes. Yeah.
Can you do number 10, Ben?
Absolutely. It's what I have bolded as well. Did you know that Santa's elves have present competitions? Matt?
I did not know that. What kind of competitions?
They like having rap battles.
Oh, Oh,
I can't wait to see what you do with these sound cues, Dylan. And with that, we can't wait to hear from you. Thank you to the Shepherd. Thank you to Humorous Harry. Sarah, we're going to get to you later, but we've cooked up some great synonyms that we're going to pitch you for the idea of a shout out. Thank you to Phantom Flyer, Dirty Deed, of course, Chickenado, and everybody else just like us. Moving forward to 2025. If you want to join the show, we'd love to have you on board. Let's get the band back together. Find us on email, find us on telephone, find us on the internet.
Indeed, you can find us at the handle Conspiracy Stuff, where we exist on Facebook, where we have our Facebook group. Here's where it gets crazy. Get in on the conversation. It gets crazy, y'all. You can also find us at that handle on X, FKA Twitter. Ben, you pointed out the other day, we got a pretty decent following on that old X, so check it out. At us, whatever you do on X. You can also find us at that handle on YouTube, where we have video content galore for your perusing enjoyment, on Instagram and TikTok. However, though TikTok's days may be numbered, you can find us at the handle Conspiracy Stuff Show.
we have a phone number. It is 1-833-STDWYTK. Put it in your contacts. When you call, it's a voicemail system. You've got 3 minutes. Say whatever you want. Give yourself a cool nickname, and let us know if we can use your name and message on the air. Why not tell us about the coolest present you gave this holiday season? We were talking about keyboards earlier. Y'all, I stumbled on one, and we are not sponsored by them. Stumbled on one called a black chrome quirky writer that is designed to look like a typewriter. It's a keyboard for your computer, but it clickety-clacks like a typewriter. Sounds awesome.
Hunting and pecking, one fingy at a time.
Well, I think it's designed to give you that feel of sitting at a typewriter was like, it sounds exciting to me. Again, not sponsored, and it looks really expensive. But tell us about the coolest gift you gave. If you've got more to say than can fit in a 3-minute voicemail, if you've got links, you've got pictures, anything like that, we do have a good old-fashioned email. We are
The entities that read every piece of correspondence we receive, be well aware, just like the shepherd, sometimes the void writes back. Do send us the links, as earlier mentioned. Do send us the photographs. When you do, we can all see it. When we respond, we all see it. We'll move as a unit, and that unit may indeed include you. Please tell us your opinions of, your resolutions. Let's hear your resolutions. We'll check back in later in what the humans call 2025. For now, to do that, join us out here in the dark. Conspiracy at iHeartRadio.com.
Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.